Well, more pushback on the potential for imminent rate cuts in both Canada and the U.S. Investors' hopes for a March rate cut have been dashed again. Tiff Macklem said that the central bank wants to wait a little longer to make sure inflation is coming down before committing to cutting. But even as he asked for more time, he admitted the bank's timing was a bit off when it started raising rates in the first place. We'll get into the details. Welcome to The Close. I'm Jacqueline Hansen. Those are the closing bells on Bay Street and Wall Street. North American trading is now over. We are just getting started. We are just getting started. We are just getting started. Well, the full details of the Bank of Canada's most recent meeting are out, and they don't offer any more clarity on when an interest rate cut will happen. The head of the Bank of Canada says in hindsight, they could have started withdrawing stimulus sooner. Brian, thanks so much for making time for us this afternoon.
Thanks, Jack. Good afternoon, Canada. Thanks for having us.
How likely do you think it would be that we would see exceptionally strong productivity gains, Randall?
I don't think we're going to see strong productivity gains anytime soon.
Can you do both? Can you have a strong labor market the way that it is in the U.S., and can you have a strong economy the way that it is there and have inflation come down all the way to that target?
It requires a lot of heroic assumptions in order for that to happen.
For what else is on his radar today, we're joined by Bloomberg's Vince Signorella. So, Vince, there was a Sunday evening watch for you, perhaps. So, when it comes to Jerome Powell, was there anything that jumped out from his conversation?
It was hardly a Paul Volcker Saturday night special. He's only said this 3 times.
Vince, just looking at the S&P 500 right now, I mean, S&P almost 5,000. It just makes you think about how difficult it's going to be to get out of that. I mean, you might be able to spend right now, but I mean, not only does it slow things down for the companies that are expecting consumers to be spending, but it's really going to slow down life for a lot of people if they have to be paying back a lot of debt over a long period. Talking about the need for 3.5 million additional units by 2030, you think that is potentially out of date already, Benjamin?
Not potentially. It is up to.
It is.
Yes, it is.
That's what drives the profitability. That's why it's such an attractive part of the business.
You're always welcome to nerd out here, Brad. What's at risk for a city like Toronto, but maybe others that are lower on that list of yours? If they don't get the sort of balance of things right in being that interconnected hub, but then also being an attractive place for people to come to, largely visitors. I didn't realize that 60% being visitors to the city. That's a big one.
I think Toronto is at real risk. I think it's almost existential now.
What are you expecting when it comes to deal size? I mean, you talked about the possibility that interest rates would be coming down, so maybe it might make financing some of these things easier, but they're still expected to be elevated. Would that sort of limit perhaps what sort of deal sizes you might be expecting?
So it's interesting. We're expecting to see this jump in activity, and you would expect a correlating jump in deal size. But that's not the case.
For the details, let's bring in our Western Bureau Chief, Tara Weber. So, Tara, can you tell us a little bit more on the background here on this one?
Yeah, so this is Conifex Timber, which was widely known as a forestry firm, and then it branched into cryptocurrency mining. And so that, of course, requires these vast amounts of power just to operate. And the problem is that the provincial government has a right to pause power connections for new crypto miners.
We're still in the thick of earnings season. We got through a couple of the big ones last week. It was a busy week. Its shares are under quite a bit of pressure in after-hours trading. I believe it's falling about 30%.
Whoa.
At this point. Andy, quite the drop there for Snap. Coming up next, we'll take a closer look at the markets in this final hour of trading. We've got just under 50 minutes to go in the trading day, and I am seeing the TSX making its way into positive territory, joining U.S. markets. We'll look forward to watching the action tomorrow, because that does it for today's program. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.